Welcome to Crimson Tide Connection, your home for Crimson Tide sports. And I'm joined this morning by the head coach of the Alabama women's golf team, Mick Potter. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Christopher. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Coach. Coach, you've had a little time off. I think it's 4 weeks to be exact. How has the layoff been for you?
It's been great. You know, we gave the girls part of spring break off, came back midweek, had an opportunity because they didn't have classes to travel a little bit and play Old Waverly over in Mississippi and Country Club of Birmingham, which are both fantastic golf courses, and gave us an opportunity to get on some greens that are going to be similar to not only SECs but Arizona State coming up this week. So we needed to see some firm greens with some pace to them, and we were able to do that and have some inter-squad competition and get back into that. But the opportunity to rest and practice at the same time and see some improvement is what we needed, and it worked out great.
Well, Coach, I know you kind of played around some other courses, but you had one player that went and played at the Kraft Nabisco Championship in Stephanie Meadow. What did you see from her there, and how do you feel about her performance?
Well, I think any amateur that goes into an LPGA major is first of all looking to make the cut. And usually that's a dangerous situation because once they make it, they don't continue to play as well as they did to make it. So what I was really encouraged by, I think Stephanie can play with anybody. And you've seen over her 3 years here a steady progress that indicates that by the time she graduates, she's going to be able to be a legitimate contender on the LPGA Tour. And what really proved that to me was that she made the cut, and then she continued to play well. Actually shot her lowest round in the third round, and really kind of teetered on a very good day the last day as well. So very encouraging. Again, she was on firm, fast greens and got a little experience that'll help our team going into the SEC championship as well.
Well, Coach, this weekend before the SEC championships, you have the Ping ASU Invitational coming up. Can you talk about that? Talk about the course and maybe some of the field, and how do you think your team can fare against those?
Well, we'll play at Karsten ASU golf course right on the Arizona State campus. We're going to see some warm weather for the first time in competition this year, so we're kind of looking forward to that. And we're going to see some kind of small, firm, fast greens. I heard from our Ping representative yesterday that they're rolling at 12, which is pretty quick. But great preparation for Greystone the next week in the SEC championship. Always going to be a good field on the West Coast with the Arizona teams, and the Pac-12 is a really strong conference. So couple that with the opportunity to compete going into SECs, I'm really like the idea of competing rather than sitting at home and practicing going into that tournament. And I think sometimes you tend to, if you don't have a competition, kind of over practice and overthink things. So I like kind of where we are and what our preparation is leading up to the championship season.
Coach, as you said, you're heading out to Arizona for the Ping ASU Invitational, and you may not have time. I don't think you'll have time to come back and talk about the SECs before the SEC championships there in Birmingham. Can you talk about Greystone and how that course kind of fits this team, and how important is it, like you said, to kind of knock the rust off this weekend going into the SEC championships?
Well, we've had some success playing out there. We had the opportunity to play Greystone a few times prior to the beginning of classes. This past fall, we're not allowed to play it per SEC rules once the academic year starts. But we do have, I think, 4 out of our 5 players will have played Greystone before at one point or another, and when we have had some success there, knowledge of the rolls, breaks, and speed of the greens is really important. It's a really good layout. Martha Lang, who runs the U.S. Open and the U.S. Amateur for the USGA, is setting the course up, so it should be pretty fair, yet a really good test.
Talking about it being fair, how important is it to have it at a neutral location like that there at Greystone?
Well, I thought it was great when we hosted it here, that it was at a on a rotational basis. But once you host it, you're not having it again now for 13 years because there are 14 teams in the league. So. I think to have it on a neutral site is really the only fair thing to do. It always is better to have an intimate knowledge with the golf course you're playing. Some people say there's some pressure being at home that makes it a little more difficult. Well, if you're comfortable with the shots on a golf course, it's a big advantage for you. So I think this is the only fair thing to the rest of the league. Hannah Collier is a member there. That certainly is an advantage for us. However, over the years, that's going to kind of filter out too, and it truly will be a neutral site for everybody.
Well, Coach, as this season is winding down, how do you feel about this team where you are right now? Maybe what's something that you really want to see this team improve upon as you go forward?
Well, I think that the highlight is that we've won 3 of our 4 tournaments this spring and haven't really played as well as we're capable of. Number one. Number two, we haven't had, and we have had some highlights, we have had some bright moments for some of our players, but we haven't had all of our players play well at the same time. So as the weather gets warmer, as we get more competition under our belt, I look for that to happen, and I think it'll be interesting to see sort of where we stand when it all does come together. And we learned last year firsthand that it's all about that last tournament. SEC championships are nice and they're important to us, and we want to be as close to our best as we can be at that point. But no matter what, we've got to continue to get better every day in practice and learn something in every competition. And that's the great thing about this team. They're resilient. They always fight until the last putts hold in a tournament. And they always come to practice the next day, next week, and they work hard to improve. So you can't ask for anything more than that. And it's not about winning and losing for us. It's about each individual becoming the best player they can. The faster we can get there, obviously, the better.
Well, at least this team hasn't peaked yet, because like you said, you want them to peak at the end, and like you did last year when you peaked at the NCAA championship. So you have to be encouraged. Winning 3 out of 4, your team hasn't peaked yet. So hopefully they're going to start peaking here pretty soon.
Hopefully they will, but again, it's just a matter of staying patient, staying calm, playing shots that, in a totally committed way. When we lose, it's usually because we beat ourselves, and when we beat ourselves, it's usually because we're kind of afraid of an outcome rather than attending to the shot at hand. So, the more we compete, the more our mental games will get where we want them to be. And we'll see what happens, but I really like this team. Great group of girls, a lot of fun to be with, and they work really hard every day, and you can't ask for anything more than that.
Well, Coach, good luck at the Ping ASU Invitational this weekend and at the SEC Championships coming up.
Thanks, Christopher.
For head coach Mick Potter, I'm Chris Fringland, and that's it for this edition of the Crimson Tide Connection.